For the 6 weeks of this series about our responses to climate catastrophe, I've chosen for each of the 6 weeks one of the greatest hits of the Bible's praise passages about creation. Some of those love songs, those just outpourings of thanks to God for the wonders of creation. We will read one of those to start every Sunday, and then a contemporary poem. And we will finish each week with a soundbite from Jesus. These sayings are unapologetically taken out of context because our context is something that Jesus could never have imagined. But nevertheless, there are things that he said that just go, oh, wow. So that is what our readings are about. Belinda, read from the Bible.
So our first reading is Psalm 8. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You've set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouths of babes and infants, you've founded a bulwark because of your foes to silence the enemy and the avenger. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are human beings that are mindful of them, mortals that you care for them? Yet you've made them a little lower than God and crowned them with glory and honor. You've given them dominion over the works of your hands. You've put all things under their feet, all sheep and oxen, and all the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea. Whatever passes along the paths of the sea. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
What I Learned from My Mother by Julia Kasdorf. I learned from my mother how to love the living, to have plenty of vases on hand in case you have to rush to the hospital with peonies cut from the lawn, black ants still stuck to the buds. I learned to save jars large enough to hold fruit salad for a whole grieving household, to cube home-canned pears and peaches, to slice through maroon grape skins and flick out the sexual seeds with a knife point. I learned to attend viewings, even if I didn't know the deceased, to press the moist hands of the living, to look into their eyes and offer sympathy as though I understood loss even then. I learned that whatever we say means nothing. What anyone will remember is that we came. I learned to believe I had the power to ease awful pains materially, like an angel. Like a doctor, I learned to create from another's suffering my own usefulness. And once you know how to do this, you can never refuse. To every house you enter, you must offer healing. A chocolate cake you baked yourself, the blessing of your voice, your chaste touch.
Words of Jesus from John chapter 8. You will know the truth, and the truth will make you free.
To be honest, I don't feel like talking about climate change today. How about you? That really was a great night we had together last night. So, you know how this is a special room? Sometimes when you walk in, you can feel what's just happened. It kind of holds the vibes for a while. And it would be nice this morning just to luxuriate for a while longer in the memory of those glorious voices and the humor and the love in those songs and the amazing food and Glenda playing Gershwin and the way it feels to be part of those working teams, making the thing happen, or donating a basket or decorating or being up to your elbows and beyond in the mashed potatoes, or cleaning up till God knows what hour, just rolling up your sleeves and doing whatever needs to be done alongside people who might start out as strangers, but 3 or 4 hours later they're like family because of what you've accomplished together. And that's not to mention the generosity. Let's live in the glow of the generosity for a while, how people poured money for the sheer love of the music that we enjoy in our church. Life may have been as good as this before, but I can't remember it ever being better in my whole lifetime. And they've said that the sun is going to shine. It's not out there yet, but they promised. And Mom is here, and it's Mother's Day, and lots of mothers are here. Let's feel good. What's wrong once in a while with just feeling good? I don't know, friends, if my advertised and strenuously publicized theme of climate denial for this morning made you think twice about coming to church. And if it did, I get that. You hear me. I felt it too. But tempting as it is to take this morning off, I want to ask you to come with me because this is absolutely fascinating. And because, with the help of the warmth and the joy in the room, this is the right time to address a really important issue. There are 100 reasons for shutting out what we know, everything that the scientists tell us about the trouble we're in as a species, us and all the other species on the planet that would go down with us. 100 reasons for shutting it out. 2 reasons I can think of not to. One is that if we love it enough, this precious, precious human experience we get to live, we can still save it. If we love it enough, there's still time. And the other is God. Jesus said that the truth would make us free. I'm not sure about free. What I know is that we need truth to make us real. It's a choice. We can be like those 3 monkeys. Don't show this to me, I don't want to see it. Don't talk about it, I don't want to know. Don't even suggest that you want me to talk about it because if you do, I'm out of here. If we are real with each other, that joy that we experience through our hard work and play together becomes richer and fuller, more sustaining, a real marker of our life as a people. If we're real. If we're not, if we shut out so much of what we know and come here with parts of ourselves left someplace else, then the only bit that can experience the joy is the little bit we bring, and it can be better than that. Now, there are a couple of really good books out there about climate denial, and I recommend them to you. The classic is by George Marshall, entitled Don't Even Think About It, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Ignore Climate Change. It was published back in 2014. Another, more recent, is by a Norwegian scientist and psychologist named Per Espen Stoknes, called What We Think About When We Try Not to Think About Global Warming. You give them points for clever titles to their books, right? You can hear maybe in that they're not only about pointing fingers at the adamant climate deniers whom we know we have around us, but they're also admitting something about themselves, also admitting that knee-jerk response that all of us have towards denial. Marshall says we are wired to deal with issues that are immediate and urgent. We've got fantastic, sophisticated, highly evolved brains that are capable of digesting all the facts that the scientists lay out in those 800-page reports. We can do it. But it's hard work cranking up all that rational intelligence. Day by day, the way we operate is by dealing with what's right in front of us. So don't bother me with something that's halfway around the world and 15 years in the future. What I need to know is where we're going to find some lunch today because all the restaurants are going to be booked. And whether there's going to be air conditioning in the theater we're going to because I forgot to bring my sweater. And whether the guy is going to show up tomorrow to fix the gutter on the side of the church because we've been twice and nobody's shown up. And the new credit card, our bank decided that our credit card had been compromised, nothing on the statement, but there it is, we have to have a new one, and there's the new number. And now, all the websites you have to go to and put the new number in, jeez. Life is plenty to be dealing with without any existential threats. Thank you very much. That's why, Marshall says, of all the deniers in the world, overall, mothers are the worst. You would think that parents with beautiful children in their lives would be out in front pouring their every ounce of life energy into climate activism to guarantee their children's future. But no, whether it's just too awful to think about, or whether they're just too busy finding that missing shoe and making the dentist appointments and getting everybody out the door in time, parents as a whole are some of the biggest deniers around. Topped only, this is fascinating, topped only by people who have experienced catastrophic climate incidents. New Orleans after Katrina, New Jersey after Superstorm Sandy, Texas after Hurricane Harvey. Now, some people's lives were so disrupted that they had no choice but to relocate and start over again from scratch. But wherever they could, people just collected their insurance money and rebuilt exactly where they'd been, where they'd gotten wiped out. Like the guy on NPR yesterday, did you hear him? Lives in Missouri on the banks of the Mississippi River. His father had built a restaurant and a marina, and he wants to pass it on to his kids. So, never mind that this restaurant, perched 14 feet above the normal level of the river, currently has 4 feet of floodwater in it, 3.5 feet of water in his house. He's looking forward to getting back to normal as soon as possible. Stuckness makes a distinction between active denial, when you know the facts and you put lots of energy into refuting them, and passive denial, where you just do your best to ignore what's out there and carry on as though everything is okay. And some of us are pretty good at both of them. I think that underneath they both stem from the same instinct. This is unpleasant. It's going to make me feel scared or angry or guilty or hopeless. It's going to force me into a life I don't want to live. Dislocation, deprivation, scarcity, sacrifice, dark and cold, lentils for dinner and no more travel ever, refugees pounding on the door. They say that when newspapers or TV report on the climate, 80% of the time they take that doomsday dread approach. Does it sell papers, I wonder? It's hard to imagine that it would, but in any case, that's what they do. And in any case, I say, no thank you. You know, that part of me wants to say just no. We need to note that there are also professional climate deniers. We've got, you know this, an ideological battle waging in the United States right now, such that your political affiliation is the greatest predictor as to whether you accept climate science or not. But for today, I'm going to ask that you simply note that fact and then park it until 2 weeks from now, when we're talking about anger. Today, our task is a bit different. Today, I'd like for us simply to admit how much we prefer not to see, not to hear, not to have to talk about it, for the sake of our peace of mind and such happiness as we enjoy in these lives that we've built for ourselves. Those 3 blessed monkeys. My job in a sermon is to hold up the mirror so that you see them all sitting here in our chairs, and then offer an alternative. That poem that I read for you this morning, what I learned from my mother. Did you see that title in the bulletin, and what did you think? Oh, this is going to be some nice platitudes and pleasantries, good old Mom. And then you realize that the poet is talking about how you reach out to people when someone in their family has died. The bases you keep handy in case you need to take flowers to somebody in the hospital, the foods that you prepare, the way that you show up. I learned, the poet writes, that whatever we say means nothing. What anyone will remember is that we came. Now, who among us is so Christian that when we hear about someone in a hospital or a death in somebody's family, our very first instinct is to drop everything and go and be with them? Isn't our very first instinct to wish that we had our hands over our eyes or over our ears, that we didn't know, and we didn't have to respond, we didn't have to do anything? And then, of course, we channel our inner mother and we drop everything and we go, we do what we're supposed to do. We step into what love requires. And then what happens 9 times out of 10 is that love meets us there. And it's powerful, and it's beautiful, and it's right. And we say to ourselves, I'm really glad I did that, yeah? Some of the best moments of our lives may be because we showed up someplace that initially just every instinct we had said, I don't want to go, yeah? I want to suggest to you that that's no accident. The reason that those moments are so intensely right and powerful and beautiful is because God is already there. God is there. God's love and healing are looking for ways to embrace the person who's hurting. And when we come with our flowers or our casserole or just our visit, almost always we feel a love and healing bigger than we are, flowing into the situation. Is that true for you? Right, that's true for me. So here it is. The spiritual resource that I want to suggest in the face of climate denial is showing up, being there, knowing what we know instead of shoving it away, facing what needs to be faced, and facing it now instead of postponing it till tomorrow or next fall or next year. God's love and power and wisdom and healing are looking for ways to pour into the creation a hopeful future. If we step up, we become channels for the love and the power and the healing of God. And that feels fantastic. And it's also our very best hope, maybe our only hope. Life on the other side of denial isn't bleak and gray and scary and desperate. On the contrary, it's full of wonderful people and celebration and energy. Bill McKibben, activist, he spent his whole lifetime in climate activism. He should know better than anybody. He says it like this: we are messy creatures, often selfish, prone to short-sightedness, susceptible to greed. And yet, most of us, most of the time, are pretty wonderful, funny, kind. Another name for human solidarity is love. And when I think about our world in its present form, that is what overwhelms me. The human love that works to feed the hungry and clothe the naked. The love that comes together in defense of sea turtles and sea ice, and of all else around us that is good. The love that lets each of us see we're not the most important thing on earth, and makes us okay with that. The love that welcomes us imperfect into the world, and surrounds us when we die, even especially in its twilight. The human gain is graceful and compelling. What we experienced here last night around music and food and celebration and generosity and friendship is exactly what it can be like. Already, people have been coming to me with creative ideas about things they think the church could do. Involve the community, raise these issues, press for change. So, for example, let's have a street fair. Let's invite Island Books to come and set up a bookstall. Let's have a booth where Linda can sell the mesh bags she's starting to make. You put your produce in and they've got a drawstring, right? And then you don't have all those plastic bags they put in the garbage. And under Jonathan's supervision, let's have lots and lots of food. Jonathan is enthusiastic about eating lower on the food chain and just how delicious it can be. And we can try out those electric bikes that are out there, if anybody's brave enough. I've been meaning to try that. I need somebody else to be brave enough with me. And you're welcome to try our electric car. If you'd like to go out, take a spin, see what it feels like. It's really fun. Maybe we could get some high school kids out there with their science projects, some middle school kids out with their posters, a bit of tree planting, and definitely a party for the new solar panels. So you get the idea? And when we're done with that, how about if we have film nights here? Once a month or so, a film or a speaker, or we could go on a field trip to see some innovation, some new bit of technology, or one of those carbon neutral buildings that people are managing to put up. Now, I know that it's the wrong time to suggest anything that involves energy after the day that we all had yesterday. But what if it could spill from here into the world, and what was spilling out was not doom and despair, but love, just love, more and more love, and determination. The truth will make you free, Jesus said. We sure aren't free. Well, we've got our eyes tight over our eyes and our ears, our hands tight over our eyes and our ears and our mouths refusing to speak what's real. Let's go. Let's take the risk. Show up. Because that's where we find God. I am absolutely sure of it. Amen. Your offerings will be received so that God's love can pour through here.